This is Thomas Ince. He did a lot of firsts when he came to Hollywood. Before him, the movie stars didn't have their own names. People didn't know who they were. So he made their names visible. He told his movie stars how to dress and where to go and who to be seen with and even who to marry, where to live, and he created the stars. He was the first of the movie moguls to live in Beverly Hills, and he had a magnificent estate on Benedict Canyon. He was one of the first people of that time to have his own gym in his house. And he ran every day. He had his own personal trainer. That was unheard of in those days. We're talking the early 20s. He died in, I think, 1924 aboard William Randolph Hearst's yacht. This is Carl Laemmle. He was born in Germany, a middle-class Jewish family. His mother died when he was only 13. And he begged his father to let him come to the United States when he was 17 years old. He went to work in a Nickelodeon in Chicago. This is William Fox. His parents immigrated to the United States while he was an infant, and his father was very shiftless and irresponsible. He later founded the Fox Film Corporation. And he also started in a kind of a Nickelodeon type thing. This is Louis B. Mayer. He was born in Russia. He immigrated to Canada with his parents. He disliked his father. His father was very authoritative and stern. He adored his mother, and she was the one that gave him his strength, he later said. In this picture, this person is 5 years old, and it's Cecil B. DeMille. Cecil B. DeMille was born in New York, actually. His mother was Beatrice Samuel. She was Jewish. And his father was an actor. His older brother, William, was a stage actor. But Cecil went into motion pictures, which was, you know, a new kind of unheard of industry at the time. Then there's Harry Warner of the Warner Brothers, of the famous 4 Warner Brothers. This is Harry, Albert, Samuel.
Yeah.
There were 11 in all.
That's true.
Were in the trades business with manufacturing of clothing. They saw how people lining up out in the streets to go into these Nickelodeons. They put their nickel in a machine. They'd look into this machine and see this little 1-minute film of people supposedly moving. And they were amazed that the people would actually go in there, line up to pay money, and leave with nothing in hand. So they thought, this is a good business. You don't have to have inventory. This is Harry Cohen. Very young Harry Cohen.
Thalberg.
Irving Thalberg, right. And he, sadly, too, died very young. And this is Marcus Lowe, who also started out in filmmaking, but he really thought the money was in the theaters, and he really concentrated his efforts on the theaters. And the Lowe's theaters are famous. And this is Adolf Zucker, and he was a furrier. Let's see. They were from Eastern Europe. They had hard lives. They were hostile or had little contact with their fathers. They adored their mothers. And they wanted to be Americans. America to them meant gentility, respectability, and status. They had a dream of what America meant to them. They could make films. They could portray the perfect American family in their films. Portray films where the fathers were strong, the families were stable, the people were attractive, resilient, resourceful, and decent. This was their idea of an ideal America. They created a colony, and it was called the American Imagination. Thomas Edison actually was the first to have motion pictures in the United States. And all the people that wanted to go into the industry had to go through him and pay him a fee. 1903, he opened the first cinema in Frankfurt, Germany. Florence Turner, in 1907, who became the Vitagraph girl. And Vitagraph was a film process that they decided it was a publicity thing to make her the Vitagraph girl. She was 20 years old. She worked as a wardrobe mistress for $18 a week. And if she appeared in a film, she got an extra $5. This is 1909. It's a New York picture company, Bison Films. And it's Bibi Daniels is the little girl in the middle front. And the woman on the far left is Princess Redwing, a real Sioux Indian, and her husband, Young Deer, is on the right. The studio needed a gimmick or an angle to make people come to see their movies more than other movies, so they played a part that they were using real Sioux Indians. This is the Lubin Film Company. Sigmund Lubin came out west in 1912. But that's not Buffalo Bill, that's his double, because the real Buffalo Bill was under contract and couldn't get out of his contract, so they used his double. The site is now KCET on Sunset Boulevard. This is Mary Pickford in 1912. She was in a film called The New York Hat by D.W. Griffith. This is Helen Holmes, who was the Hazards of Helen. She did her own stunts, and this is in 1914. Charlie Chaplin, again 1914. This was his second movie, and it was called The Kid Auto Races at Venice, when his character, the little tramp, first emerged in this film.
Before you go on, I have to explain about this. They went on location to real kid auto races in Venice. They were really doing racing, kids racing on these little soapboxes. So they went out there with a film crew, which was like 2 men, and Chaplin. And Chaplin was in the crowd, and just at the right time, he jumped out and did his antics. And this cop right over there went and grabbed him, and they used the cop in the whole scene. See what I mean? And he was trying to get away from the cop, and they did the whole business, all impromptu, in Venice, right in the middle of this event.
This is the Vitagraph Film Company in 1916, filming a Joe Rock comedy. Joe Rock was one of the early comedians in the comedians in the teens. He was one of the big stars of the early teens. This is actually a studio, a set in Boyle Heights in 1916. Isidore Bernstein started the studio and acted he later became the manager of Universal. The the canvas on stage was a diffuser to diffuse the light for the camera work. Now this is the site, this is a freeway on-ramp. This is William DeMille, Cecil B. DeMille's older brother. He had an illegitimate child with Lorna Moon. Lorna Moon died, and John wanted to pursue his acting career, could not care for the young boy. So he put him up for adoption. Well, his brother, Cecil B. DeMille, adopted him, but they didn't tell anyone. And DeMille said it was his own child. They didn't find this out until Cecil B. DeMille died, and they were disbanding the DeMille estate. The son was going through some papers and found his adoption papers and found out that William was really his true father, so he wasn't DeMille. Here he thought he was adopted, and he really was a DeMille. This is Jesse Lasky at the Lasky-DeMille barn where The Squaw Man was filmed in 1913. It was located at Selma and Vine, and now it's been moved, and it's a museum, and it's across from the Hollywood Bowl. This is 1914. The set of the Virginian. On the right is DeMille. On the left is Oscar Apfel. And he was a director. When DeMille started in the business, he didn't know how to direct. So they hired Apfel to teach him. This is Cecil B. DeMille in 1940, filming Northwest Mounted Police. The young man behind him is Jesse Lasky.
Junior.
This is in 1916, the merger of the Lasky Feature Play Company and the Famous Players Company. And that's Zukor there?
Yes. That's Jesse Lasky, Adolph Zukor, Samuel Goldfish, later changed to Goldwyn, C.B. DeMille, and Al Kaufman, the studio manager for Famous Players, in this merger of Famous Players Lasky, which later became Paramount.
Okay, this is the Motion Pictures Association, 1928. Left to right, it's Mike Levy, Samuel Goldwyn, Saul Wurtzel, Jesse Lasky, seated. It's Jack Warner, Will Hayes, who was head of the censor board, Irving Thalberg, and Louis B. Mayer. This is the Warner Studio in 1920. It was on Sunset Boulevard at Bronson in Hollywood. That's the main entrance to it. Not very glamorous. This is the Warner studio that is now KTLA on Sunset and Van Ness.
Yeah, this is where the Don Juan, the Jazz Singer was shot, and where many, many other Warner Brothers films were shot until they moved to Burbank in 1928. But I should add one thing. Between 1928 and in the 50s, Schlesinger Productions, which did all the Warner cartoons, were based here at the Sunset Warner Studio.
And this is the Warner Studio in 1928.
This is
in Burbank.
Right, this is Barham coming down to Olive Street down here. And that's Pass Avenue right over here.
And this is the same studio in 1940.
This is over here is the river, and right over here, this area here is the Lasky Ranch, which we don't have a picture of except here. And the Lasky Ranch was where they shot all the big pictures for Paramount from about 1916 with Joan the Woman all the way through till the 1950s when it became Forest Lawn Cemetery. And also that's where the Birth of a Nation battle scenes were shot. Gettysburg, that's where also Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse of Metro and Valentino was shot, all on this wonderful back lot, the Lasky Ranch.
This is Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer, 1927. But in 1926, the Warner Brothers put millions of dollars in equipment into all of their theaters, which were several thousand at the time. Everyone thought they would fail, but they were crazy, and they thought they were crazy to spend the money on it. They approached Al Jolson, who was a big star at the time, and they asked him if he would be interested in putting sound into the movie. He liked the idea, and he said, okay. And the rest is history.
Vitaphone here, as you see here, is a disc recording. It's a synchronized disc, synchronized to the projector. So the projectionist has to put the disc, put the needle down exactly when the film cue tells you to do it. So sometimes they goofed and they went out of sync. They have to start over again. Later was William Fox and others who developed the sound on the film system, which we have today.
However, just 4 hours before the premiere, Sam Warner had a heart attack and died. And all the brothers left and took the train to California, and they missed the opening of The Jazz Singer, which was the greatest night of their lives. Okay, that's Jack Warner on the left and Sid Grauman on the right. And they're shaking hands because Warner just contracted a deal with Grauman to put sound in all the Grauman theaters. Grauman put up the money, and it was the first synchronized film picture in 1926. This is Warner's 1926, left to right. It's the producer Henry Blanke. Right. Blanke. And this is Ernst Lubitsch and director Paul Stein. Left to right, this is director Archie Mayo, who brought the new star from New York to star in his feature film, Fanny Bryce. And the movie was My Man. That's America's Sweetheart, Mary Pickford, 1934. And that's Douglas Fairbanks.
Doug died shortly after that, 1939.
This was the in-studio in 1915 in Culver City, and it later became the Samuel Goldwyn Studios in Goldwyn established the Samuel Goldwyn Studios, and the box on the roof is covering. It's only a temporary box because they were changing names so often of the studio.
It's Triangle Inn Studios. This is Washington Boulevard right here. Okay, this is it was built in 1915. In 1919, Samuel Goldwyn came from New York, and this box was there. This was just around 1919 when the shot was taken. And then he left there in 1921. But the name stayed on until 1924, when Metro, Goldwyn, and the Mayer companies merged together to form MGM. But Goldwyn had already left, leaving his name up there because contractually he was not allowed to take it with him.
He started the Samuel Goldwyn Company.
Right, that would be in Hollywood, which was later at United Artists. So it's a little confusing. We have two Goldwyn studios, you understand. He left his name on this one and later formed his own in later years.
And it was his idea to put the lion on for strength, and the lion stayed with MGM.
This shot was taken around 1926. Now it's MGM Studios, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. But it says
after the merger.
And it says right under it, it says controlled by Lowe's Incorporated, Marcus Lowe.
This is Louis B. Mayer in 1936. Now, MGM was known for the extravaganza, the musicals. This was Broadway Melody in 1935 with Eleanor Powell. It's called Love Finds Andy Hardy in 1938. It's Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. This is 1938. These are set design. This was set designer Cedric Gibbons, and the other man is William Horning.
Yep. This is the set from Marie Antoinette, 1938, starring Norma Shearer and Tyrone Power. Here, all this furniture was original that they had purchased in France. They're all real antiques from France, including the Aubusson carpet.
By the way, when MGM had their auction, when they closed down the studio, I went to the auction and they had magnificent things, but they would have an actual antique chair or table, and next